Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome everybody here. This is like a reunion. Isn't it fantastic to see who's out here today? Boy, that was really weak, man. Come on, y'all. No, it really is. It really is fantastic. I've seen some people today already that I haven't seen in some time, and some people who I go back so many years with, and leave it to Hilda Mason to bring us all together, right? She was always great at doing that. This also is the first day, if you will, of Women's History Month. And what more fitting way to kick off Women's History Month than to be able to dedicate this street to one of our true heroines in the District of Columbia, and that is Hilda Mason. Women's History Month is designed, and I want to thank Therese Lowry. Therese worked with me when I was on the council. She is the director of our Office of Women's Policy and really has done a great job. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we're going to do this month. And given the fact it's a little nippy out here, I'm not about to deliver this whole thing today. But great job in putting those together, Therese. I think we all know that Women's History Month, hopefully we do anyway, is designed to honor the tradition, the history of activism, all the work that people have done to try to ensure that women enjoy the equality that women should in this city and in this nation. And I'm glad that, aren't you glad that our young people are here today? Yeah, so that I don't know why they're standing all the way over there. They should be. Come on, y'all come on over here, man. Yeah, that's it. Come on, get in the mainstream of things here. You know, fortunately, certainly in more recent years, and thanks to people like Hilda Mason, women now enjoy roles, professional roles, not only as parents and teachers, because that was kind of a historic role, but also as nurses, as physicians, as scientists, every role in this society that has been available for centuries, if you will, to men. And we know that Hilda Mason played an instrumental role in helping to open that door. We got some really, you know, I was hesitating starting to name names, but you know, where's Jim Nathanson? Where'd he go? There he is. Councilmember Jim Nathanson is here today. And Shelley Broderick, who really has taken the law school at the University of the District of Columbia and turned it into an absolutely first-class operation. There's a statistic, Shelley, that I cite a lot, and that is that it was, I guess, a few years ago now, that the law school had an 83% first-time pass rate on the bar, and that is absolutely phenomenal. That's exactly right. Hilda and Charlie. That's right. I never forget. You know, I'm jumping around now, but so what? You know, we out here to have fun today. I never forget, at 6 o'clock one morning, I got a call. This was back when there was an effort being made to start a law school. It was Antioch School of Law that was being transferred, being transitioned to the District of Columbia School of Law. And I got this call at 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was Hilda Mason on the other end. She said, "I need you to serve on the board of the District of Columbia School of Law." And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I would have said yes to anything. So that's how I got on the D.C. School of Law, Shelley. And of course, you've been with it from the very beginning and done a great job with that. You know, in addition to the roles that women have played, we have really tried to establish our Office of Women's Policy as a force in the city to focus on the things that women do and should do. And hopefully our young women over here will not face some of the barriers that so many other women have faced. They've come along because the path has been cleared for them. There's some really important things that we're going to do during Women's History Month. And that will include things like honoring the efforts of women with the Washington Women of Excellence Awards for accomplishments in education, law, health, human services, business, and community service. And I hope that when those awards are given, that we'll have as many of you come out as possibly can be there to recognize those accomplishments. We're also partnering with NMC Consulting, which is a female-owned firm, right, Therese, to sponsor Walker's Legacy. Now, who knows who Walker was? Madam C.J. Walker. Come on, y'all. Who was actually the first self-made female millionaire, right, Therese, in America. And if nobody knows any differently, we'll just claim it. We're going to partner with the National Council of Negro Women for a full day of activities that will focus on empowerment, education, and a variety of other efforts. And in fact, we are issuing a proclamation declaring March 10th as Women's and Girls HIV/AIDS Day in the District of Columbia. We're also co-sponsoring the National Women of Power Summit. We are holding a town hall meeting for young women to help focus on them moving their careers forward. And in celebration of International Women's Day, we are going to bring together our offices of African American Affairs, Latino Affairs, and Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs to host a documentary that will focus on, it's entitled, what, No Woman, No Cry. And it will focus on the risks and implications of maternal mortality in 4 nations: Tanzania, Guatemala, Bangladesh, and of course the U.S. And of course, as we celebrate all these things, the backdrop will be the celebration of Hilda Mason, who did so much for this city, an absolutely extraordinary person. And I feel honored not to have to stand here and cite something that I may have read in a history book, because I lived the history of Hilda Mason. And how many other people did in this audience today? You know, she came from an area of Virginia, I think it was. Where was it, Carolyn? Okay, you got it. And, you know, she came to D.C., born in 1916, and really just throughout her time in the city, she did an enormously fine job. She was a teacher. And in fact, she taught with my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law talks about her a lot, and they knew each other extremely well. My mother-in-law was a public school teacher her entire career, and Hilda Mason was a public school teacher in her early days, right? And then she decided to run for the Board of Education and got elected to the Board of Education. And what is not known to a lot of people is the role that she and Charlie played in helping to bring justice to children with handicapping conditions, disabilities in the city. We have something called the Waddy Decree, which a lot of people don't even know what that is anymore. It was actually the forerunner. How many of you are familiar with the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, which is now called IDEA, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act? It is the law of the land and establishes the rights of children with disabilities to an education. And actually, there was a case in the District of Columbia that became known as the Waddy Decree that Hilda and Charlie played an instrumental role in helping to even write what ultimately was the order. That order established the rights to education for children with disabilities in our DC public schools, and then went on to become the basis for the federal law, which was adopted back in 1975, and then has been changed over the years. You talk about a revolution. That was a revolution in how children with disabilities were educated in this nation, and it started right here in the District of Columbia, and started, frankly, right in the Mason household, working with Judge Joseph Waddy to be able to make that happen. And those are the kinds of things that she did. And I think we all know that she went on to run for the council in 78, 79, 77, 1970 something. And she did that in the wake of Julius Hobson having passed away in a very untimely death. He was a member of the Statehood party. and a fierce advocate. That's right. You know what, I know that this audience will understand what I mean, but don't you think everybody should be a member of the Statehood Party in the District of Columbia? I mean, one of these days it is going to happen, you all. We can't be denied forever. And by the way, just as an aside, are you all aware that we now have a population in this city that is larger than the state of Vermont and larger than the state of Wyoming? So, you know, eventually maybe we'll catch up with everybody. They can't deny us then if we have a population that's larger than every other state, right? Want to bet? In any event, she went on to have a storied career on the council of the District of Columbia. She served from, I guess, 1978 until the late 90s. Yeah, 20 years on the council of the District of Columbia, and served with great distinction as the chair of the Education Committee. She was the Education Committee, actually. I mean, I think if people talked about the Education Committee on the council, they talked about Hilda Mason. I don't even know if people knew, did they know, Jim, who the other members of the council committee on education were at the time? Didn't make a difference. That's right. If Hilda wanted it to happen, it was going to happen. And she was also somebody who fought for so many other things, you know, on the council. Affordable housing, for equitable wages in the District of Columbia, for transportation all across the city. When you look back at her record, you find a distinguished record of somebody who fundamentally, deeply cared about people, about human beings, and did everything she could. You know, frankly, she and Charlie were people of means. They didn't have to do what they did every day. And they did that because they loved this city, they loved the people of this city, and they wanted to see a different set of outcomes for the folks who lived in the District of Columbia. And frankly, she and Charlie were the people who made sure that law school happened. I think we have an area of the law school that is named for them. And we also know that she absolutely loved one thing in particular, and that is, there wasn't a time when I saw her when she would walk up to you and say, not walk up to you and say, you know I'm the grandmother of the world. And she would say, I'm your grandmother, you know. And of course, that was one of the endearing things that she did with people. I could talk about Hilda Mason for the rest of this day. Probably not a good idea given the fact that it's not 75 degrees out here. But we also have her family here with us today. Carolyn, who herself had a distinguished career in the District of Columbia government, somebody I have known for a very, very long time. And I want to ask her now if she would come up and say a few words, and then Hilda's grandson, Stefan, would ask him to come up afterwards. Please join me in welcoming Carolyn Nicholas.
Good morning, everybody. I want to thank everybody who has come here today to join me in this very special occasion, including my relatives who drove up from Roanoke, Virginia, to be here today. Needless to say, I am elated, exhilarated at this honor, and want to thank Therese Lowry, the Director of Women's Office of Initiative and Policy Directors, and the Mayor for for making this happen. And I just am so happy. I've been in tears almost every day that finally this is just such a beautiful thing. I don't have that much to say because Mayor Gray said everything so eloquently and so beautifully. But I do want to say that my mother derived her determination to succeed and to help people from her mother and father, Joel and Martha Hayden Menace. And they passed on to her a legacy of determination to achieve and to help others, because they spent their lives helping others. So I wanted to close my remarks by quoting Hilda, who responded to a reporter during an interview when asked what made her remain true to her principles. It's in the marrow of, and I might cry, it's in the marrow of my bones, it's in my blood. Almost every step I take, I feel like I'm doing what my mother and father would have done, and my grandson Nestor too. I feel like I'm walking in his footsteps too. I can't forget where I came from. I can't forget what my parents did to preserve their own lives and the lives of others less fortunate than we in our community. Although I'm living comfortably now, I'm not going to forget how it once was for me, and I'm not going to turn my back on people who are not as fortunate as I am.
Well, I don't have any prepared remarks, so I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank the district for naming the street after my grandmother. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming out today. I do want to say that this is the perfect way to honor my grandmother, because just up the few houses up there was their home, and it was a home on a personal level to me. I mean, I grew up in this house. They had this house before I was born. Obviously, they passed away in this house, and I came here every day after school. I spent a lot of time in this house, and you know, it was a home to me, but also to everyone here in the district. And whether it was famous names like Stokely Carmichael, or this is where Councilmember Berry recuperated after being shot at the district building, or whether it was Jesse Jackson coming by for support for his campaigns in the 80s, or whether it was just residents of the district, especially students who she cared about more than anyone else, were coming by and maybe seeking help for tuition, or even people paying their own electricity bills. This was a home to everyone in the district, and I think the street naming is the most appropriate way to honor my grandparents. Thanks very much.
You want to mention your two children being here?
And her great-grandchildren, Alexander and Charles, sitting there in the audience with my lovely wife, Giselle.
Carolyn, if we can ask you to come back, I want to present a proclamation establishing this as Hilda Mason Day in the District of Columbia. Now, I'm not going to read all. There's a lot of whereases there, as well there should be, given Hilda Mason's rich history. But the one thing I do want to mention is that this day, and I don't think there's any other designation across the city, March 1st, 2013, as we kick off Women's History Month here in the District of Columbia, has been designated as Hilda H.M. Mason Way Day in the District of Columbia. And we want to give you this proclamation. Hope you will keep it in memory of your mom and
I
all
will
she
keep
did.
it and treasure it. And again, thank you and Ms. Lowry for this honor.
You're welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you.
You notice we didn't name it. We didn't name it Hilda Mason Street, Hilda Mason Avenue, Hilda Mason Road. It's Hilda Mason's Way. Okay. And isn't it fitting? Those who knew Hilda Mason know it had to be Hilda Mason's Way, right, Carolyn?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. All right. Why don't we? I'm going to see if we can figure out how to pull this off of here without breaking the string. I've done that before too.